I mean, you'll be very surprised on what's happening in the sustainability world.
I read this one post on your LinkedIn that said, who profits from conserving the environment?
Coldplay, that's one great example, that he pays more for the tickets because his concert is completely carbon neutral. So he will say, I will only go in a jet that is fueled by SAF.
The government isn't doing enough to support sustainable entrepreneurship.
See, I can't say yes.
It was a tiny yes.
You have the best opportunity to make wealth, and that is by having a business. They want us to be like the men. They want us to talk like the men. They want us to be assertive like the men, you know.
Yeah.
And I used to be like, maybe that's the right way. Maybe that's what the world knows. There are studies that say that women at the corporate level far supersede the male counterparts in their results. So they do better. Women, I think, are so interesting, really, aren't they? Because we're so multifaceted. You know, men are slightly boring.
She's an entrepreneur, an innovator, and a change maker. Aditi Balbir doesn't just build businesses, she challenges the status quo. Whether it's redefining offbeat travel with V Resorts or pioneering sustainability with eco ratings, her impact speaks for itself. From Business World's 40 Under 40 to Dell Foundation's 200 most powerful women in the world, she's proof that when you come up with bold ideas, you can create a lasting change. Aditi, it's lovely to have you here with us today. And I think the artist in you, the writer in you, and the traveler in you complements so beautifully with this leader, this entrepreneur, and the innovator that you are. The room is supercharged with that energy of creativity and tech, and you are to thank for that.
Wow, thank you. That's a great introduction. Thank you.
It is you. The introduction is all about
It is
you.
me,
And
definitely,
yes.
but it's nice to hear you say that. Thank you.
So I think the first question that I want to ask you is that contrary to how people usually believe, your entrepreneurial journey started in a very unique way, in a very different way. हमेशा हमें ऐसा लगता है that we know कि हमें शुरू से अपना business करना है या अपना खुद का कुछ काम करना है, but with you were practically kind of pushed into it. Is that so?
Yeah, forced into it, absolutely. Yes. And I was, the other way around. I was quite content working for somebody. I was quite happy. I had a terrible work ethic, by the way. So I would always be late, come in by 10:30, 11, make lots of excuses around traffic, and leave by 4:30. And I was like, oh, this is work life and it's pretty cool. And then you're getting paid at the end of the day, no worries, nothing at all. So I was very happy being an employee. There was no part of me that wanted to do a business.
Yeah.
And I was really given very little choice because when I was working with this VC fund, we had started a company, we had funded 2 individuals, and then after a year they left. So we would either have to shut that company down or I would have to step in because the other person was the fund manager. So he said either I run my fund or I shut everything down and run the company.
Wow.
So I said, I know nothing about being a CEO. He said, it's not so tough and we will help you. We will coach you to become one. And I said, okay, let me give it a shot. Yeah, I'll try to do that.
Yeah.
So the first thing that happened, was that he says, okay, now you have to put in some money to become a CEO. So I said, hey, how does that work? I mean, why do I have to put in my money? He's like, well, that's what makes a founder. So you have to put in money, you have to know that there is skin in the game. And I was just shocked. I said, shouldn't it be the other way around? Like, I should be paid, right? I thought the salary is increasing. But that didn't happen. And that was my first, my first tether into the entrepreneurship world, where I figured, okay, this is really risky. You're putting your money into something, so it better work. Otherwise, you're not going to get the money back. So, yeah.
Then there was no looking back after that?
I actually quite enjoyed it
Yeah.
because I think the initial years were, I wouldn't say scary, but the initial years were trying to figure out that how do you run a complex situation where you're the only one who's in the leadership. There's so many different roles to fulfill. If my business was going to be reliant on digital marketing, then I'd better know it myself, because I can't rely on somebody to come in and say, okay, outsource it. So you can only outsource something when you know how it's going to work.
That's right.
Because otherwise, how are you going to track the metrics, etc. Right? So that was the initial years when I was learning, and I was very happy that I was learning. Then the later years were very interesting, because there was almost like a power flip. Because initially there were people coaching me to tell me what to do, and then the later years was about me telling them what I wanted to do, and then they would say, oh yeah, this is the right decision. So now that's like another, it's another high, right? Because you're like, oh okay, my decision is approved, great. Because we were always a board run company. So even after that, what happened was that the board started now listening to me. Instead of me giving reports to them, I was actually telling them that this is how it's going, this is what is happening. And so that whole thing of being in charge was very, very fulfilling for me. And I figured that this is what I like to do. And frankly, after my first startup, I again went back to the world of investing. I thought that I can become an investor now. But I really didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it at all, because when I met entrepreneurs and I saw what they were building and that drive, I was so jealous. I wanted to just be like them. So I said, no, this is not good. I'm not being objective at all. I'm not going to make for a great VC.
You want to be the doer, right? You want to see that journey through.
I want to definitely be the doer. I want to be the doer. And I've just come back from the World Economic Forum. So we met the CEO of Concord, of Fly Concord, and he said the most interesting thing: you have the best opportunity to make wealth, and that is by having a business. Because the sort of wealth that you can create with a business, you can't do it if you're putting it in the stock market, in real estate, even in gold. Those returns are never going to come back to you, right? I mean, they are going to be great returns, but the type of return that a business can give, that is real, true wealth creation.
I'm glad you said that, because I think today people believe in finding ways of having passive income. They no longer want to work for that money, So when you're running your own business, the risk is massive, but the returns are also massive, and it's not about just... I'm not saying that investing in stock is not risky or that it's not an intelligent thing to do. But, like you said, when you're the doer, when you're running your own business, it's a different kind of a high, and you actually step into that version of yourself to be able to take care of it.
Absolutely. Because you have to be your real true version to run something, right? I think more importantly that if you're looking at the other asset classes, you're looking at percentage return. The returns when we talk of 100x, 1000x, all that comes from a business only, right? So the world that you're talking about is not my world. I'm a Gen X person. The world that you're talking about is the Gen Zs, the millennials who want the passive income, and that's also fine. I mean, having a passive income is great. Yeah, maybe you enjoy other things. By the way, being a business owner doesn't mean I don't enjoy other things. I enjoy other things equally well. Like you said, I love writing, I love art, I love everything. But doing it without a purpose. So for example, if I'm writing and it's not published, I won't feel so fulfilled. Or if it is, I'm doing art but it's not selling, I won't be so happy. So I think for me, I'm quite, I'm very capitalist in my thinking.
I think we like to see our work somewhere, right? When we are putting time into it. A lot of people write for themselves, which is also beautiful. But it's I really relate to, what you're saying. I think I'm also a lot like that.
Maybe entrepreneurship mindset.
Yeah. When we develop that entrepreneurship mindset for our work, I think we tend to have that grow onto other aspects of our life as well.
Yeah.
Taking me to the second question, which is your current venture, Eco Ratings. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, it is not so complex as you think it is. But see, even if you're doing rocket science, ultimately you're watching the rocket going to space, right? So I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So it is basically like a ChatGPT. Obviously, it is not... we're not using ChatGPT or OpenAI, but we've developed something which looks like a ChatGPT, where you could put in a question and you could get an answer in real time, just like you do in ChatGPT. But the questions will be around sustainability.
Okay.
So typically things like, what is the sustainability of this jacket that I'm wearing, or the earrings that I'm wearing,
Interesting.
or, like maybe your house, what is the carbon footprint of your entire house, or for a particular company, or any activity that you do that relates to carbon emissions. That is the sort of data that would come out from our engine. It's again very simple because for an individual, you can track your daily emissions, what are the activities that you are doing which have the highest emissions or the lowest emissions, and so on and so forth. But more importantly, it's structured for a company. So when you see sustainability today, first of all, it's a new industry.
Yeah.
It's been around, but it was never a need to have the way it is today.
Yes.
We were just discussing
Agreed.
that January is the hottest month, that of this year that we've
Yeah.
ever had. And all that is climate change, right? So what is happening is that sustainability is right now very complicated. When you think about sustainability, you yourself don't know what you're doing. Companies are relying on solutions which are very sector specific. They're relying on consultants coming in to tell them what to do. There is a lack of standardization in this space.
Agreed.
We felt that it should not be so complex, because this industry, even though people think it's new, it's actually pretty old. All the data points, the definitions, the frameworks are already out there. So what we needed to do was decode it at the basic granular level, so that you ask a question in English and you get an answer in English. It's as simple as that. So for a corporate, they should know what what emissions are happening because of their activities. If they are taking measures to reduce those emissions, are they working? It is also around really truly mapping what you are doing in the most easy way. So neither are you bothered about what data is there in the company. All the data is getting captured, it's automated, and you're getting responses in real time and according to what you want. So you're a CEO, maybe you want to talk in Davos and you want to give a speech on what you're doing in terms of sustainability. You can ask that platform that please tell me what are the top 3 things I'm doing better than my competitors. Or you could be a supply chain person saying that, okay, I'm onboarding a new supplier. Is he contributing to my emissions, or is he actually reducing my emissions, or are there better suppliers out there? So you can take a lot of different decisions based on the data that is happening.
Very fascinating.
Yeah. So it's not so complicated.
Exactly, like you said, because I think sustainability was never complicated. As people, that's something, again, like you said, it's been there a really long time, and somewhere down the line we lost our way and we decided to make this into something which is very larger than life, very complicated. In reality, it's a course of life, and that's how we need to understand it.
Indians anyways have a very low carbon footprint.
Yeah.
I mean, we should all know obviously that all the emissions and all this whole sustainability conversation is coming from the West, because they are the ones who have taken the measures to actually increase the carbon emissions in the world. Indians by default, most of us are in villages. Agriculture is still our largest industry, so we're not really creating those many emissions. And then that way of life where you don't really go to a particular mandi to buy something. Whatever your nearest market is, you go there, you buy your stuff. So it's all very localized. You're not really contributing too much. We are a very low carbon emission lifestyle based economy. The way we were living earlier was the right way of living. If you look at our houses also, before concrete became the thing, you looked at the villages and there were these beautiful wooden houses or mud houses. They were insulated for the weather. They were made for that particular area, and you were using resources of that area. उसी का पेड़ काट के आप उसी के एक घर बना रहे थे, right? So carbon emissions extremely low. Now, because the problem is so global, unfortunately, you know that the developing economies are the ones who are most susceptible to climate risk.
Correct.
As you can see, all the big issues are happening, to the developing economies. So now, because of that problem, everybody has to be sustainable, which is good for the industry.
Yeah, which is definitely good for the industry. But I feel one of my major takeaways from this is, again, reiterating the part that sustainability does not have to be complicated.
No, not at all.
And your platform allows for even complex answers.
Yes.
to be simplified for the other person to be
Yeah.
able to execute.
Exactly,
right?
that's the idea. So all the back end calculation, benchmarking, carbon calculators, etc., are all at the back end.
Yeah.
All you need to do is, okay, I'm buying a polyester shirt from Zara today. Is it really going to be high on carbon emissions? And when you read that answer, you'll be like, okay, maybe I'm not going to.
Yes.
Maybe I'm not going to buy that shirt from Zara.
Yes, and that's a beautiful use of technology, and it's something that today all of us will be able to use and exercise because that's where we're proceeding,
heading
right? The
towards.
Chat GPT is now, I think, on everybody's devices,
course.
and we're so dependent on it.
Till 3 days ago, ChatGPT was, now DeepSeek is.
Yeah, that's pretty much taken the world by storm now. Let's see where we head with that. But something like eco ratings, it needs to be on more devices. You also mentioned the individual use case of the same. I want to understand, for a small business that's not necessarily differentiated in departments like, production, operations, marketing, and sales, how can they leverage eco ratings to better inform their small scale sustainability activities?
Very easily. So, I mean, the platform is just it's one platform, right? So, if you are a big company and you have different use cases, you could take maybe 2, 3, 5 subscriptions.
Yeah.
We have a lot of SME clients, and SMEs would just take one subscription to the platform, and then they would keep asking questions, getting their answers, getting their facts together, etc., etc. So, it works the same for an individual, for a company, for a country. It works exactly the same. It is just the economics of it, honestly. So, the point is that for a small business to actually automate everything may not be the correct requirement also. I mean, why would you want to spend so much on that, right? But getting insights, yeah, sure. So, you just take a subscription, like you take a subscription to ChatGPT, you take a subscription to our platform, and then you ask questions. So, it's not, again, it's very simple even that way.
Yeah, makes sense. I read this one post on your LinkedIn that said, who profits from conserving the environment? And I think profit here means benefit. But if I look at profit in the literal business sense of the word, monetarily, I want to understand that if somebody employs sustainable and eco-friendly practices in their business models, can they also enhance their profits?
That's a very nice question, frankly, because that is my entire, I'd say, hypothesis. Okay, businesses are very smart. You know that already, right? They're already making money. Yeah, they're unicorns. I mean, we are not going to tell them that, okay, reduce your profits, do big spends on sustainability and save the planet for our children. No one's going to listen. So, in truth, sustainability actually helps you do a lot of things. Helps you increase your revenues, and I'll give you examples. Helps you increase your share prices, helps you actually make more money, helps you reduce your costs. It is actually something that you should do because it is business sense. Why was my first venture sustainable? It was because we had to do it. So just to give you an example, so we had these villages that were attached to our resorts, and all the resorts were in offbeat areas. Okay. Now, we first started with, okay, we are going to go to the IHMs. We tied up with them. We had a steady flow of guys coming in as resort managers. We would interview them. They were very amazing. They came, they went to the resort. Okay, so first of all, the issue was that those resorts had very seasonal occupancy. So there would be months where they had nothing to do. So those guys are bored out of their mind. They're like, ab yahan pe hum kya karenge? Whereas their staff was obviously local, and so their staff would go back to their homes. Now, the second issue used to be that they are coming from the cities, the staff is local. How do you communicate to each other? And how do you figure out the basic stuff that, jab tray lana hota hai, to this is how the napkins are kept and stuff like that. So they really struggled. And at the end of it, they left. So we had to develop a model where we took the resort manager also from the village. So the smartest boy who had a bit of, who was maybe a 12th class pass or something like that, we took that kid and then we trained him and we told him, okay, this is what you need to do. Now, firstly, that guy is from the village. So, of course, he got trained very easily, but more importantly, he was a gold mine of information. So he said, there is a little waterfall here, or do you know, if you go to these people, they make such good dal. So I mean, he was fantastic. So then we figured, oh wow, the whole village can come together
Correct.
and look after our guests who come. And you know, initially, I'm talking about 2012, 13, this concept of picnic by the lake and, you know, curated picnics and stuff, all of this is now happening in ITC, Taj, everywhere. But this is what we started. And this was the ideas that these boys had, who were these locals from the villages. So they were fantastic. So now you're like, oh wow, kitna sustainable hai, sare resources local hai, etc. Or you're creating jobs for those villagers. But in truth, they were the ones who made the business run. So sustainability, you should do it because it is the intelligent thing to do.
Yeah.
I'll give you some examples. There are large companies, like especially in the automotive sector, who ask their suppliers, so their suppliers, any suppliers, that year on year you have to get one particular ESG rating,
Okay,
because
yeah.
they are, you know, doing their sustainability, and so they need their suppliers to be sustainable, right?
Makes sense.
Now here, if you get a rating which gives you a silver or a gold badge or something, they will actually increase the amount that they purchase from you.
Okay.
And there will be a supplier who doesn't have that rating, they will reduce the amount. So see, direct revenue benefit. Similarly, if you have good ESG scores, you have good, ESG filings, etc., you can attract impact capital. You can get loans at cheaper rate of interest. You can actually attract capital, increase your share prices, so direct impact on wealth, on stakeholders. And typical, you can make a lot of measures. So if you're optimizing your electricity, what does that mean? Your electricity bill is lower.
Correct.
So obviously, if your electricity bill is lower, it's a direct benefit, of course.
Correct.
So it is impacting every
Yeah.
part of the
Yeah.
business, and it's good.
Correct. And I really like that example that you gave of having the locals build that whole experiential setup,
Yeah.
because I also feel that we now see sustainability from a very limiting purview. You know, it's more about electricity, water, just, you know, the basic things. But this idea is also so beautifully sustainable.
Yeah.
To work with your resources and to make that, you know, your power play, really.
It happened
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
You know, frankly, we never thought that it would happen. It just happened.
Yeah.
And then we attracted the impact investor. Obviously,
Beautiful.
they said,
Yeah.
wow, what a model. We should replicate it in the entire world. This is how tourism industry should be, blah, blah, blah. And you're right.
Yeah.
Because the entire concept that goes against sustainability is that of centralization, that you are centralizing resources in one place. So obviously, that guy is leaving his village, traveling there to get training, then he's trained, then he's going back somewhere else. Then that guy has to go back home, so again he will go back home to another place. So obviously nahi hai na sustainable.
Correct.
Whereas that village is like just maybe a kilometer away from your resort. He walks every day. He doesn't even there's no car involved, maybe a cycle at best, and so there are no emissions.
Yes.
So that's the general idea.
Absolutely. And I also feel like sustainability and profit that we were talking about,
Yeah.
it's the best time for that, because our mindsets are also now moving towards, we need things more organic, we need things as they are. We don't want the person to be necessarily trained under 100 people anymore. We want them to be, you know, who they
Yeah,
are, and
real.
we want that experience to be as raw as possible.
Exactly,
So now is the best time to be able to execute that again.
Absolutely it is. And I mean, you'll be very surprised on what's happening in the sustainability world. You may have heard of sustainable aviation fuel, which will make, which will help the airline industry a lot.
Okay, very
but it's
interesting.
expensive. So obviously, because I mean, airlines is one of the largest contributors, obviously, to carbon emissions.
Yeah.
And you can't say that just stop air travel. That can't happen, right? So that's my point. The world will continue to live a certain way. You can't suddenly say that ab koi kahin nahi jayega and you will only travel within 1 kilometer radius. वो तो होगा नहीं, right? So they will continue to do that, but you have to look at new innovations, new things which are coming out in the market, and this is one of those things. But it's expensive.
Yeah.
So now, because it is expensive, based on the fact that it is expensive, airlines can charge more. And say that, okay, like for example, Coldplay, that's one great example, that he pays more for the tickets because his concert is completely carbon neutral. So he will say, I will only go in a jet that is fueled by SAF, it's called, and he will pay more, but then the airline is also earning more, so more profit.
Great.
So
Yeah.
that's how it's working.
Absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. One thing I want to ask you here, though, is that sustainability, in the name of sustainability, a lot of D2C brands and a lot of different businesses just increase the price of things. I understand that sustainability does come at a price, because when things are not chemically manufactured, or mass production, economies of scale is not necessarily being utilized, a lot of different things, then the price for them also, the cost also increases. But I do feel somewhere it has also become a little bit of a marketing gimmick and like greenwashing, and also just increasing the prices because you feel that the people are going to pay for it, knowing that it's organic or sustainable.
Yes, that is true, because typically you would say that a conscious consumer is someone who is more educated, he has more money, obviously, and he will care more because, he will care more about the planet because of that. So you can increase the prices. It is not, in fact, especially in fashion, I wouldn't say that it is there is a direct impact on costs. Sometimes it's the vice versa. Sometimes the costs are lower. So think about it in our case also. Imagine a guy coming from an IHM, I would have to pay him 50,000, maybe 60,000 and be at par with the industry standards. But if I'm taking a local guy, even at 30,000, he's super happy. So for me, actually, it is a cost advantage. So things don't necessarily have to be more expensive just because they are more sustainable.
Yeah.
My sense on this probably, and I would be pretty honest about this, is that, and it's not really greenwashing, I think it is more to do with the economies of scale that you're talking about. I think brands start off as more expensive, more to appeal to the customer, and also maybe because their economies of scale have not yet kicked in, and maybe at some point of time they will.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit of that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And like you said, the local bit again, we need to look closer to home. We are probably, even for sustainability, we are looking at, again, massive solutions. But if we look closer to home, then it's not really about the price game.
Massive solutions work for high innovation things, right? So when you need to, for example, we had to replace fossil fuel with electric or with hydrogen or with any of these, right? So when you have those massive transitions, what you call it, then yes, you need that innovation to happen before you can do anything about it. Just because I'm very particular about my carbon emission doesn't mean that I will not take the trip to, say, pitch to investors in London. I will go for it, right? Because it is, again, direct impact of capital in my business. So I would do that. So in those cases where there is where a lot of scale is required, you need that innovation. But closer to home is for things that we use on daily basis, right? That works very well, because again, transport is the third largest contributor to carbon emissions. So if you can reduce your transport footprint on anything, it works.
Makes sense. There's this one thing that my uni professor had told me back a few years ago, that when we're sending out an email, we are actually contributing significantly to the impact on the environment. And that, probably it's common knowledge, but for me at that time it wasn't. That came as a shock to me. And then very recently I was reading how ChatGPT, also, like 100-word generation of an email is equivalent to 1 liter bottled water. And then
I don't know whether that's true, but but
perhaps,
it's very, very high on carbon, for sure.
And the predictions are that by 2027, the amount of water that AI is going to be consuming is going to be equivalent to how much Delhi as a city consumes in 7 years. And my mind was blown. I was like, really? Like, do people know enough about the impact of tech on the environment?
Yeah, it's got a huge impact. Because see, so data centers or servers, right, you must have seen rooms where those machines are there. They need cooling, right? So because of that, the water usage is there. And definitely they take electricity, they take water. Okay, these are the two main things that they take. I don't know what is happening on the water side, how much innovation is happening there, but I know on the electricity side, people are moving from normal grid-based server plants to solar power panels, right? They are moving. So again, you have to think innovatively. Whatever you are using in terms of technology, that is right now powered by the normal dirty grids that we have, by the normal water that we consume. So obviously it's very high on carbon footprint. So there also, that's also another industry. We'll have to try and figure out how to use it. So there is an entire green revolution that can happen in the tech world itself, where you're using a lot less energy and a lot less, of course I don't know about the water part, but a lot less energy for taking out that email. So typically you may have seen websites which say that we are green websites. There are two types of websites. So they do a lot of work to ensure that when a page is loading, etc., it's not taking extra time. And more importantly, you would have seen that they have a black background. That white takes up a lot of power. So they usually have that black background and things like that. So there is a lot of innovation happening. Look, we never thought about this, na? We just did, we just went crazy that everybody wants LLMs and everybody wants data centers, everybody wants email. So we didn't think about those things properly. That's the problem. And we just went and set up these things. And now that they're set up, we are trying to figure out ways to transition. So that innovation is happening across sectors. It's not just ki we'll be, you know, instead of using a plastic comb, we'll use like a bamboo comb and hum sustainable ho gaye. It's not like that. Every facet of what you have produced, even things like your furniture, everything that you can think of, we have done it unsustainably. We've already done it, na, ho chuka hai.
Correct.
So now every industry therefore requires a rethink, and some of them require massive innovation.
Yeah. And I think somewhere it's the contributors that are also going to become the saviors. Like, I think tech being one of the major contributors to that, yes. But then how your business, Eco Ratings, is helping you kind of reverse that as well. So we have to start finding solutions in the problems as well now.
That is the only way to do it, you know, as we go forward. And lots of innovation is happening. A lot of it is on carbon capture technologies. Those seem to be one of the most effective ways to reduce carbon emissions going forward. So a lot of work is already happening. A lot of experts I know in the sector already feel that the earth has surpassed that, you know, that 2 degrees that we are talking about, that the Paris Agreement is all about, and really trying to keep it. So we've already surpassed at 1.5, you know, degrees. And after that, it says that this whole thing is irreversible.
Okay, wow.
So that's a little, that's, you know, the pessimistic view on this. But in any case, whether that happens, doesn't happen, we can't say. The fact is that everybody is moving towards transitioning to a greener economy in whichever way that they can.
Now it's no longer the future, it is now. It is active
Absolutely.
work that needs to be put into it.
Absolutely.
Now moving to the next aspect of you, out of the beautiful and many aspects that you hold. You are, you know, one of India's most celebrated leaders and entrepreneurs, and you are, and you also, you know, advocate for leadership roles for women, right? So I want to understand from you, what do you think is the definition of leadership?
See, leadership can be in anything. I mean, you can be at home and you can be a leader. Haven't we seen our mothers?
Yes.
I mean, they are fantastic leaders,
correct.
Right? So leadership just means that you're at the head of the helm, and it's basically you everyone is coming to for guidance, and you're basically running the show. That's what leadership is all about. Women, I think, are so interesting, really, aren't they? Because we're so multifaceted. You know, men are slightly boring. They have very specific, you know, maybe not the newer generations, but at least in our generation, men were coached. It is also a societal thing, right? That they were coached to just think about their careers, think about their work. I mean, we don't want men to be very creative. We don't want them to stay home. I mean, ये सब भी तो उनको हमने सिखाया है.
हमने ही pull back करा है कहीं ना कहीं. हाँ.
Men shouldn't cry. Men shouldn't do this. तो उनके साथ भी काफी कुछ. It's not just the women who have taken a beating. I think even the men have their own issues. But I think women are interesting because this leadership role that we're talking about, no, they apply it to different parts of their life.
Yeah.
And that's what I love, because a person may not be a leader at their house, but then when you look at their friend circle, she is the main influencer. She's carrying that circle of friends together. She's kept them all together, and she's the one everybody looks up
Yeah.
to. So you can be a leader in any part of your life. And women, I'm very happy again to say, are not just focused on, okay, this is the IRR multiple that I'm getting
Yeah.
on my time. They are focused on many things. Yeah, maybe the family, maybe their interests, their passions, their pursuits, their friends, or their social life. So they do a lot of things, right? So I think that way most of the women that I have seen play this leadership role very interestingly somewhere or the other. It plays out, maybe in their hobbies, maybe in their maybe with their children, but it plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the beautiful mix of EQ and IQ there
Yeah.
really supports that journey through.
Yeah, absolutely.
One story here actually is that back in school, I always used to get like a B grade in leadership. And at that time, I think we were kind of, made to believe that leadership is about authority, it is about being loud, it is about being assertive.
That's the male way of
looking at it,
right?
yeah. But slowly I learned when I started taking up leadership roles in uni and then also at work, of course, I mean, you really need to step into that version of yourself then. I realized that leadership is more about a silent understanding and that kind of a leadership which is confident but mellow is often more effective and more inspiring, right? So what are your thoughts about that?
I've lived both versions.
Okay.
So when I was coached into being a CEO, so obviously it was done by men, right? So that leadership looked like me being very authoritative. They said, okay, you have people at the resort level, they will not respect you. And I remember very early on thinking they're respecting me irrespective of whether I'm the CEO or whoever I am.
Yeah.
They're just being warm because I have come to their resort, they're taking care of me. And even if I'm saying that, pani aisa nahi hona chahiye, aise hona chahiye, they are taking those notes. So it didn't ring very true to me, but I said, okay, fine, maybe if they're saying it, they're right. And so, like I said, those early years were about me learning, and the later years was about me being that authoritative figure. Being a disciplinarian, be very very assertive, and I became the male version of a leader at that time. But during that time, there were a lot of other women entrepreneurs also. There were very few, in fact, at that time. So I remember meeting a lot of them. So somebody like a Shraddha Sharma from your story. So she used to talk about this a lot. That, they want us to be like the men. They want us to talk like the men. They want us to be assertive like the men, And I used to be like, maybe that's the right way. Maybe that's what the world knows. But now when I see, and that's why I want women to be more, to take more leadership positions at the corporate world, because you can see the new versions of leadership emerge. And that is fantastic. So there are data points that say that, women who are leaders in funds, in big positions, in banks, etc., their companies have higher sustainability scores because they actually care about other things as well. They're not just looking at bottom line, they're looking at triple bottom line, or they're looking at other things, and that is how perspectives will change, right? There are studies that say that women investors or women at the corporate level far supersede the male counterparts in their results. So they do better in terms of their results. They are more likely to achieve the projections than their male counterparts. I mean, there are so many interesting data points like that. And in my second venture, I decided, I said, pehle to itne log nahi hone wale, so I can be my mellow self, because I didn't like being that person. I didn't like it. So I decided that this journey is going to be more happy. People are going to be happy with me. They're going to like me. See, last journey, no one liked me, and that's a fact. Even the people who were working with me, who knew me for years, they used to be like, okay, we can't deal with you.
Yeah. Because when you walk into the room, you are also trying to be somebody you're not, right? So that doesn't go a long way.
That whole work culture, etc., is very negative. See, thanks to the millennials who have called all this out. Because if they hadn't been there, these things wouldn't have been called out. We would have all just done what the baby boomers did, forever, right? So it was a very negative work culture, and this time I decided it won't be. And I'm telling you, it's working so well for me.
I'm sure.
It's just really working well. I don't have to raise my voice for anything.
Yes.
Absolutely
Yes.
not. And even if I just tell them what I need to get done, it gets done better than what I could have done, which is just fantastic.
Yes, because there is an understanding, there is that care, looking at the finer things. You're reciprocating their energy with, that mellow self that you were
Yeah,
talking about. I
exactly.
think that's required, because shouting and screaming and trying to get things in place, that's, I think, very temporary anyway. You walk
It's
out of the room
completely-
and it's a mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm very happy to say we're actually a team of 3 co-founders. 2 of us are women.
Yeah.
And even in the company, maybe 60% of our company, especially in all managerial roles, are women.
Okay, wow.
And it's going fantastically. Yeah. I mean, they are great. And see, look, women have their own concerns. Like when I say, listen, on Saturday, I need this to get done.
Yeah.
They might say that, I'm sorry, I'm in the market right now. I need maybe an hour to get back home. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. As long as it's done, I don't care where you're doing it from. Or somebody will say, today I'm going to work from home because I have certain issues. So I'm like, as long as you're working, you work from wherever you want to work. My work should get done. My deadline should not suffer. And they never do. They never do, because they are so happy with the flexibility that you're affording them. They will go above and beyond to do it. So I'm
Correct.
fine with
Correct. I think it's a very big misconception that women at work, it's not as effective for a company,
Oh,
or
it's
not.
hugely hugely.
And people are seeing that now.
Yeah.
They're seeing
Yeah.
what
It's
what
very
women
apparent.
bring to the table, really.
Yeah. Even
Yeah.
in terms of entrepreneurs who are out
Yeah.
there, there's so many more now. Almost every team I see has one co-founder who's a lady.
Yes.
So
Yes.
great.
Yeah. And she's doing wonderful things
Yeah.
with that feminine power that she
Yeah,
holds, really.
absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
to understand the finer things, to be able to see through those things and implement things a certain way, I think you've spoken a lot about empathy also previously for leaders, and how that's a very important quality to be able to take things forward. So I think for women, intrinsically, we hold those qualities.
Yeah, we
Yes.
are already
Correct.
empathetic. Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely. Also, do you think that leadership can be learned, can be honed, or is it something that you're basically born with?
No, it's completely a learned skill.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not something you're born with. it's a skill that can definitely be taught.
Yeah.
What sort of leader you become is a little bit to do with your personality, I feel.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but the skill itself on how to take care of a workforce, how to build a company, all these things are coachable traits. You don't have to be born thinking that you'll, be a leader or something. I don't think anybody thought that. Do you think Mahatma Gandhi thought that he'll be a leader? I doubt. I don't think anybody thought that they'll be a leader. It just
But
sort of
sometimes, you
happens.
tell yourself that, oh, you're not cut out for it, because you're trying to put yourself into that mold of how the world perceives a leader to be.
Yeah.
But it's so important to break free from it and find out your own style of leadership and see how you can be effective in that
Absolutely.
space.
There is no mold for a leader.
Yeah.
A leader it's a very individualistic thing.
Correct.
So there is no mold. You can have many, many different types of leadership.
Yeah.
There is no such set pattern. As many as there are character traits, those are as many as there are
Correct.
leaders.
That makes sense. I also want to ask you, because you were at a VC firm, you've seen how things roll from the inside. So I want to ask you that, do you have any, let's say, 3 tips for an entrepreneur actively seeking investment?
At the end of the day, VCs take 2 bets. They take a bet on the person and they take a bet on the industry. They're not taking a bet on the business. See, business is sort of situational, right?
Yeah.
Any situation can turn at any time. There can be a new policy that comes up.
So
like
dynamic.
You say, I mean,
Yeah.
it's market risk, right?
Correct.
So they don't bet on the business. They bet on the industry and they bet on the team. Now, the industry is something that they've already figured out in their head, that these are the 3-4 different industries that I'm going to bet on. Okay, so they've already figured that out.
Yeah.
That is their thesis. So you generally go to a fund when you know that your business is fitting into their industry thesis. That's the first one. When you look at the team, unfortunately, or I don't know, it isn't very unfortunate. The point is that very few businesses or very few people who are not from the A grade B schools and the A grade engineering schools get funded. That's a fact. Because again, when you're betting on a person who's doing this for the first time, you have to look at what all he's achieved in his previous life, right? To give some indication of how he's going to do. Is he going to be that hardworking? Is he going to? So imagine if you went to, say, maybe you just went to one of the smaller, say, B schools, then the mind will be like, okay, he didn't work hard enough at that time
to be able to get
to the big ones. So will he work so hard that, or will he work as hard as what is required to be able to do
Yeah.
that? So there are a lot of guys, by the way, who are breaking this myth. That for sure, every rule has an exception, right?
Yeah.
So, so there are a lot of people. I don't want to take their names, but they are very, very big today, and they come with this fact that don't go after the VC money, build your own business, bootstrap it, because they did not get that VC funding. And let me tell you guys, honestly, VC funding just makes your life easier. This is a fact.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's not just their money, it is their ability to do things faster, and it is their network that comes into play. And so therefore, if you're going to do a bootstrapping thing, you
You're
will
missing
take
out
your
on a
own
lot of
time.
things. It's not just the money.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So you will take your time. You could be a roaring success for sure. It doesn't mean that you will not be a success, but it will take that much time to
Yeah.
build that. Whereas VCs just give you that money and that network to do it faster.
Correct.
That's all. That's
Correct.
all that the VC brings with it.
Correct.
So definitely makes your life easier. But in terms of that team, so that's the first thing they see. And then again, in terms of team, they will see how clear you are about the business, how well you understand the industry, what are some of the insights that you have on the industry, and then how well you can communicate the numbers that will get you to a particular status or something like that. So you have to be good with numbers, you have to understand how your entire business translates to a particular set of revenues, etc. That's basically what they look at in terms of a team. That's the main two things that I can tell you.
Yeah, okay, no, very, very helpful. And also how you mentioned that it does make your life easier. Again,
Yeah, it
there are two ways to look at it. That one is a bootstrapped business. You see what works for you, and also at what scale are you looking to grow your business, because sometimes your business is not very investable as well, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So that is when so you need to have hardcore innovation, and you need to have the ability to scale. These are the two main things that are required by a VC, because without that, it makes no sense for them also to invest, right?
Correct.
So your business is, saying that it's not investable, it may not be the right way, but it's not VC investable.
Got it.
Might be investable by angels
Yes.
or strategics or other people,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because there are, by the way, a lot of businesses which are typical brick and mortar. Somebody's making shoes, someone's making jewelry, and they got funded. It's not that you can't get funded. You can get funded. Even these businesses get funded. If there is no tech play, for example, they get funded.
Yeah.
But then they get funded after they have achieved a particular scale, or when they are already doing well, then they get funded.
Yeah. So, I mean, would any investor, VC or other, forms of investors, would they always look at that a business will have the ability to have a certain valuation, because eventually they're going to be looking for their exit,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that system definitely needs to be in place. It cannot really be those homegrown businesses that are working more on cash flow and more on...
No.
Yeah. That,
Mostly
yeah.
no. Yeah, I mean, for
Makes
sure.
sense.
That is why they want the scale, because the
Yeah.
scale will bring the valuation.
Got
Or
it.
they want hardcore innovation that will bring the valuation.
Got it. Makes
Sometimes, like for example, the sustainable aviation fuel that I spoke
Mm-hmm.
about, it's a very well invested company, and that is because it's hardcore innovation, and you know that at some point of time, if all the airlines start the SAF instead
Yeah.
of the normal regulation, the normal fuel,
Yeah.
then that's a huge business. They are already going to be
blow up.
unicorns. So that idea itself is like, okay, wow, it's a huge market opportunity.
Correct.
So then they'd go
Correct.
after it.
Yeah. Also, because you've transitioned, through that phase, what is your advice to an employee who is on a stable salary but, dreams of having their own business?
No, there's no such rule. Yeah, I mean, some people don't care about the stable salary. Some people want to work for themselves. So it completely depends on what you want to
Yeah.
do. But if you want to build something, I like I said, there is no better tool for wealth than building a business. So if you think you have the grit and you can do it, then go for it by all means. I mean, why not? In fact, that's why they say that you have to be young and you have to be hungry, because if you're not hungry, then you will not build a big business. This is
Yeah.
also, by the way, one of these very amazing things that happen in VC, that you have to not be very affluent, because if you are very affluent, then you already have the money, you're not creating wealth. You want to create wealth.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest reasons why a person
That's
would,
the driving force,
it's
really.
the driving force.
Yeah.
So when you want to create wealth for yourself, by default you will create wealth for your investors. So
Makes sense.
that's the reason that that you look at it that way.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
do all this.
let's move on to our game section. The first part of the game is a rapid fire for us to get to know you better, the Aditi outside of what the internet knows. And it's
Great.
called What Inspires Aditi Balbir, right? And you can give us one sentence or one word answers as you please.
Sure.
Okay, so you ready? An artist who inspires you.
I love the Pichwai artists.
Okay.
I've been quite fascinated by what they make, and they're usually in Udaipur. So I am starting to make my own Pichwais, but with a modern twist,
Wow.
obviously, to it. But yeah, I love those folk artists for sure. Other than that, I love modern art. I love Indian modern art. Atul Dodia, Anju Dodia. There are lots of them, yeah. I mean, this is a very long conversation. Yeah, this is not like this is definitely not a
Not a rapid fire,
yeah, this is definitely
suitable
not a rapid fire suited, because art, I love art.
Yes.
So actually, I've been in museums since I was a kid, so I love all sorts of art. So Picasso at one time
Yeah.
was the flavor. Then obviously the American modern art is fantastic. So yeah.
Lovely, very nice. So, I've been someone who's never had a very good hand. I can't draw
No,
or
I
paint
also
to
don't have a
save
very
my
good hand,
life.
yeah. I don't know where that hand came from. I never had a good hand. I never did art. I never enjoyed art at school. I remember my brother was such a good artist that I said that I don't want to paint, because he's painting so well. I don't want to even try.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it came from. I have no idea.
But I could see some of the paintings that you've made on the wall when you were in one of the interviews.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see more of your work. I mean,
Sure.
it's beautiful and very, very interesting. I also had this phase in which I used to kind of convert my poetry pieces into artworks. So I write poetry.
Wow.
And how I used to do that was very abstract, because I think that was something that you don't really need a very good hand for it. You just need
Creativity.
Correct.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So that's something that I also very much enjoy.
Yeah, no, so art is very different, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, art is furniture, art is where you live, art is your clothes, art can be your jewelry.
Yes.
So art is everywhere.
Yes, yes.
And that's what we say. I think somebody famous said this, that if you have art in your life, you're never lonely.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep.
No, I
Nice.
definitely didn't say that. Somebody said it.
Okay, a writer who inspires you.
Oh my God, these are very difficult questions. I've always loved Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And so I love the whole story behind the author, and how she came up with this and everything. And everybody says that you always have one good book inside of you, right? So probably the book that would talk about me the most, which is called Midnight Library.
Okay.
So Midnight Library is about the fact that there is this lady, she's very depressed, she's trying to kill herself, and when she kills herself, well, she's trying to.
Yeah.
So she goes into this place, which is a library, and there is this one librarian there who says that, okay, there are all these books in the library, you can choose any version of the life that you want.
Okay.
And so go and live that life.
Okay.
So she keeps, picking up these books, and she first wants to be a famous musician, then a famous artist, then she wants to be an explorer in the Antarctic. Like basically, she tries out these different lives.
Yeah.
And then she figures out that the life that she has is the one she can make maximum difference
Beautiful.
in. So she comes back to her life.
Yeah.
It's such a fantastic book, because it's sort of a little bit like me, that I've actually tried out a lot of things. And then when I became an entrepreneur, probably I felt that, okay, this is the life. This is the life that I'm going to make all the difference in.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Wow. I think that way books, when we read books or when we read authors, we see so much of, sometimes, we see so much of ourselves in it.
Yeah, that's the book that speaks to us.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, a poem or a quote that inspires you, if you remember something.
the people who thought that they were crazy,
Yeah.
who were the people who saw them dancing thought that they were crazy because they couldn't hear the music.
Yeah, I love
one.
that.
Yeah,
I
I
love
love that. So that's again very me,
Yes.
because obviously you can't hear the music in my
Yeah.
head, and when you look at me dancing, obviously you think I'm crazy.
It's okay. I think
Yeah.
that music is best for our ears. It's
Yeah.
okay. We should dance to our own beats.
Exactly, exactly.
A person who inspires you.
So many people.
Yeah.
I think well, my dad inspires me, my mom inspires me. We have a very accomplished house, by the way. So
Lovely.
my dad was, he was always an entrepreneur. He's IIM Ahmedabad, third batch. And he never wanted to do a job. He was very clear. He said, I'm never going to work for someone else. And he did a whole lot of things, okay? He started with a t-shirt business, then he did something else. Even today, at 75, he's doing different things. Ab wo suddenly solar power mein chale gaye hain. So it's, it's a lifetime full of learning, of experience and of travel. What's better than that?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Really. I think definitely a personality to look up to.
Yeah, absolutely.
A business that inspires you?
Zero Dha. I love the way that they've created that story, the way that they've appealed to that demographic and really built a huge business on their own. I mean, it is kudos to the two brothers. Yeah, they've really done well. So it is definitely inspirational. What else? Big businesses who have done it while being smart or while being ethical, I would like to say.
Yeah.
Really, I really get inspired by them. But there aren't any, right? And there are very few of them.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you say that Coke and Pepsi are ethical, or how can you say? So I have seen the unicorns become unicorns, and there are very few of them that went about it the right way, I would say. A lot of them just tried to they kept pivoting till they found something that worked, I think. If you can do it in an ethical manner, it's great. And I especially say that to the women, because women are being, they're always stronger lens when you're looking at a woman. So especially for the women entrepreneurs out there, I'd say, take your time to reach there, but please do it properly and ethically.
Correct. And
that is something which
I think
I'm
it
quite
eventually
passionate about.
comes to, sorry for my language, but it comes to bite you in the ass later.
Yeah, it
because
does,
it's
man.
not,
Yeah, completely.
it's not going to go away, right? If you're not doing it right, and it's also about your own conscience, and it's about a business that you've built. It's your baby. You need to make sure that you've done it the right way.
So I think, you have to be very smart, sharp, cutthroat, do all that. That's no issues. But just be ethical about it. Don't report wrong numbers and fudge DD stuff and all. Like, please, then everybody just talks about you and it's like the worst. So just do it ethically and it's all good.
Agreed.
Yeah.
A city that inspires you?
Yeah, I love my city. I know it's terrible, no? It's polluting and everything is so terrible about it. But I can't, I've traveled so much. I have gone to all the cities that you would typically think inspire you. Paris, New York, Sydney, you name it, you know. And I always find something wrong. Whenever I'm there, I'm always like, यार ये तो काफी गंदा है, ये तो इंडिया के बारे में गंदा बोल रहे हैं यार, यहाँ कितना गंदा है, I'm always very annoyed. और I'm like, Singapore, हमने ये तो गुड़गांव लग रहा है यार, यहाँ पे तो कोई वो ही नहीं है, there is no soul to it, there's nothing. So I crib a lot.
Yeah, your heart is in Delhi.
I'm sorry. And when I go to Bombay, then I'm like, यहाँ पर भी इतनी pollution है यार, वहाँ पे AQI 400 तो यहाँ पर भी तो 200 ही है, इतनी क्या बड़ी बात है?
We defend Delhi and Delhi's pollution like it's our.
We do.
Yeah.
And every time I go home and I'm like, कितना green है यार, Delhi तो कह रहे हैं green नहीं है यार, कितना green है. So I find fault in whatever city I go to. I love being there for 3-4 days and then I want to come home.
Yes.
So I love
again
my city.
really relate to that, and I think people who have traveled widely, a lot of those people would tell you this because they know that the importance of home and the value of home triumphs.
So it's very difficult for me to think about home in another place.
Yeah.
And nothing really inspires me because if it is very beautiful and very green, then I'm like, it's dead. If it's,
Yeah.
completely city, then I'm like, there's no greenery. I don't like this
Yeah.
place at all. So there's always something wrong
Yeah.
with something.
Delhi actually, that way, if you think about it, is
It
a
has
place that is
everything,
everything.
no?
Actually.
It exactly
Yeah.
has everything.
Yeah.
ठीक है, pockets में है. So
हाँ.
when you want greenery, आप एक जगह चले जाओ. And when you want outdoor cafes, आप कोई और जगह चल जाओ. But it
Correct.
has everything.
Yes.
That is true.
Yes. Okay, an animal that inspires you?
Oh, my pet.
I wanted you to answer that.
Yeah,
That's why I
obviously.
put this question.
I can't
in.
think of any other animal that inspires me. I don't know whether I would say inspires, because the point is that I keep thinking that what if I didn't have her in my life. I mean, I'd be so free. I'd be so tension free. My son is old now. I don't have to look after him. So I would be like such a free bird. But then I'm like, craving after my second or third day outside, wherever I am traveling. I'm like, oh, my dog is missing me. I can feel her missing me, so I want to go back home. So I've become a real homebody after she's come.
Yeah. That's my mom. She says कि पहले तो 2 बच्चों को बड़ा कर लिया है, now तुमने तीसरा बच्चा दे दिया है, and she is so attached. She would crib also, but then she cannot
same
live
here.
a day without him.
I'm also so attached, so I crib.
Yeah.
We're cribbing because we're attached. Yeah.
So the next part of the game is, do you advocate yes or no, right? And feel free to justify your answers if you want to.
And you want to give me the flags?
Yes. So the green is yes, I do advocate.
Okay.
Yeah. You can't succeed if you don't take risks.
Oh,
Yeah.
surely.
Fall 7 times, stand up 8.
Absolutely.
Luck plays a huge role in success.
It really does.
Women make better leaders than men.
Yeah, absolutely.
Profit for any business is paramount.
It is. It is.
It is, yeah.
Absolutely. See, the first rule of sustainability is that it is a sustainable business on its
Correct.
own. So if you're doing something good and you started something but it doesn't last, then what is your contribution to the society? So sustainability means you first have to be profitable. So yes.
That's a very refreshing perspective, I'd say, because a lot of times when you think about, building a sustainable business, you don't consider the fact that pehle profit and profit ke saath sustainability will drive that profit also for you. Our
Yeah, you
initial
can, of course.
discussion.
Yeah, exactly. You can think like that. That's my point. But without that profit, you won't last. So you
Business
won't
nahi
stay.
hai
ना,
fir
कोई
wo.
business नहीं
हाँ.
है. Exactly. It's not a commercial venture.
Exactly. Most sustainable claims by businesses are just greenwashing.
See, that's true because I'll tell you why that is true.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming the businesses. It is true because the customer doesn't know or doesn't have a way to validate it. And that was the entire reason I thought about eco ratings, because I wanted somebody to just validate that claim. So if they are saying they're sustainable, they probably might be. But how do you know whether they are?
Correct.
Right? So either they have a certification or they have some authority saying that yes, they are, then it makes sense, or you have your own way to decode it, right? So there are only these two ways. So
200%.
typically I would say yeah, because you don't have a way to know whether it's true or not.
Yes. The government isn't doing enough to support sustainable entrepreneurship.
See, I can't say yes.
It was a tiny yes, maybe yes.
No, not really. Yeah, you'll be quite surprised. So we, like I said, first of all, the emissions wasn't such a concern for us because we were not the emission creating economies.
Yeah.
But since we have started the uptake, our regulations are coming very fast. Okay, so the first regulation that came out was the BRSR. The second regulation that came out is now the ratings regulation. SEBI has come out with a notification saying that companies need to get Indian ESG ratings.
Okay.
And that gives a big opportunity to companies like ours in India, right? And they are now going to promote this through road shows, etc. in the entire country. So that's going to be big.
Yeah.
Then they came out with something called an eco mark.
Okay.
Which is that you have to get an eco mark if you are claiming to be sustainable.
Okay.
So they're doing things.
Yeah.
They're doing things.
Yeah.
It's moving. It's
Yeah.
moving in the right direction. This government is actually very pro sustainability, which is good, unlike Trump.
Okay. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you must start young and early.
Oh God, no.
Yes.
You can start when you're 80, like that Kentucky Fried Chicken chap. Doesn't matter at all.
An entrepreneur must be a jack of all trades.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, for sure. Because, and you should be a king of at least one or two, right? So, definitely, because you will have to oversee everything. So, you should know enough about everything. That's why it's so great, na? That's why the learning is so great.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, when you become an expert, you're pretty unilateral. You're looking at only one thing, that I need to be the best at this subject. But when you're an entrepreneur, then,
Correct.
and just the fact that when you're in business school, that's what they make you do, right? They give you enough understanding about everything so that you can run your own
Correct.
business.
I really like your stance on this, how you were also mentioning that you had to learn digital marketing initially. Again, people need to understand that while they can hire experts, while they can outsource a lot of things, they need to know it if they really want to make their business successful.
See, how can you hire an expert about something you don't know anything about? The expert will just make a fool of you.
Precisely.
And you'll be like, "Sahi keh raha hoga yaar, because my expert hai." That's the problem. So if you know a little bit about that, then at least you can keep track of the basic things so that no one is making a fool of you.
Correct. And then build that team that you also listen to, appreciate their expertise in that space.
An expert is somebody who knows what you know, but he just does it better.
Correct.
And he just knows it better.
Correct.
And or he's doing it because you don't have time to do it.
Correct. And as an entrepreneur and as a leader, you're supposed to be able to understand that, okay, these are the different expertise that make your team.
Yeah.
But that common direction, that goal to be able to achieve it, that is at the end of the day your responsibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Correct. Great.
If I was on Karan Johar show, I wouldn't have won the hamper because I gave such long answers to the rapid fire.
No, but very interesting ones. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is so
Aditi.
cute.
It was
Thank
so nice to have you here with us
This
today.
is very sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Today's episode was very high energy for me. Aditi is so many things, and all of those things with so much of grace and inspiration. My perspective on entrepreneurship and leadership has evolved. And as a woman entrepreneur myself, I really resonate with Aditi's journey and all the takeaways from today's conversation. I hope for all our women viewers that you take today's conversation to be a little push to encourage you to start acting towards achieving your dreams and making them your reality. I also hope that as citizens of this world, we are conscious entrepreneurs and are able to harmonize the use of all the resources that we've been blessed with. Meanwhile, stay tuned and stay hungry because at Let's Talk Biz with Shubhagata, we take you from vision to victory.